The dense canopy of towering trees loomed over the sprawling wilderness, a relentless expanse of green that stretched far beyond the horizon. The sky was shrouded in a perpetual mist, casting an eerie glow over the forest floor. In the midst of this never-ending wilderness, a small tribe of Homo erectus moved silently, their footsteps muffled by the thick undergrowth. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, and the distant cries of unseen creatures echoed through the trees. They had learned to navigate this vast, unyielding forest, but survival here was a constant struggle. Their path was marked by the remnants of their efforts, discarded tools, patches of burned wood, and the remains of their meals. This was not the wild paradise it might seem. The forest, though alive with abundance, was also fraught with dangers. Every step taken was a gamble, and the tribe's survival depended on their ability to read the signs of the land, to know when the land would give and when it would take. The tribe was led by an experienced hunter, a man whose sharp eyes could detect the slightest movement in the underbrush. His instincts were honed through years of survival in the unforgiving wilderness, but even he knew that the forest held more than just prey. His eyes scanned the tree line, alert to every sound. He motioned to his group to stop, his hand raised in a signal of caution. Ahead, there was movement, quick, silent, and menacing. A rival tribe, their painted faces masked with the dust of the forest floor, had appeared from nowhere, their spears held high, ready for a confrontation. The hunter could see the glint of sharpened stones reflecting the dim light filtering through the trees. Tension spread through the group like wildfire, the air thickening with the weight of an impending clash. Without warning, a cry broke the silence, a warning of the approach of a massive predator, a saber-toothed tiger, its teeth gleaming like daggers. It had been drawn in by the scent of the conflict. The hunter's heart raced, knowing that in this moment, the tribe would face not one, but two threats: the rival tribe and the fierce predator that prowled in the shadows. The group scattered in an instant, the women and children running for cover beneath the low-hanging branches of the trees. The men, armed with crude stone axes and spears, rallied together, positioning themselves between the predator and their families. They had no time to fear. There was only the here and now, and the desperate need to survive. As the massive predator lunged, the battle began not just for food, but for life itself. The tribe fought back with primal determination, their survival instincts igniting as they faced their attackers, both human and animal. The hunter, now in the thick of it, wrestled with the beast, his spear plunging deep into its side. The screams of the battle were drowned out by the roaring thunder of the storm that began to brew overhead. The forest, alive with movement, seemed to come alive in response to their struggle. The rain began to pour in sheets, turning the ground to mud, and further complicating their fight for survival. In the chaos, the leader of the rival tribe faltered, caught off guard by the storm. It was an opening, their last chance. The hunter, seeing the moment, lunged forward, striking down the leader with a quick, decisive blow. The rival tribe faltered, retreating into the dark woods, as the saber-toothed tiger finally collapsed, its life extinguished. Breathing heavily, the tribe gathered together. The storm continued to rage, but they stood together, united by their shared battle. They had survived another day, but the constant threat of the forest remained always looming, always testing them. The storm was fierce, but the tribe had weathered it. As they gathered around the fire that would warm their bones, they knew this tomorrow they would face the same fight. But for tonight, they had won. The fire crackled as it danced in the night, its glow casting long shadows on the tribe's weary faces. The storm outside raged on, but inside the circle of warmth, there was a brief moment of peace. The rain pounded against the earth, washing away the blood from the battle. But in this moment, the tribe stood strong. The wind howled like the roar of a distant animal, but they had learned to endure, to adapt to survive. Around the fire, the tribe's elders began to speak in low tones. They shared stories of the past, of the great storms that had ravaged their ancestors, of the beasts that once roamed these lands, and of the great trees that had stretched toward the heavens. Their stories were a map, a guide for survival passed down through generations. The young hunters, still shaken from the battle, listened intently, their eyes wide with respect. They knew the elders had faced dangers far greater than they could imagine, and yet they had endured. The stories were not just tales of triumph, but lessons of humility, resilience, and the power of unity. The young men shared their own stories, their voices hesitant but proud. They spoke of their hunts, of the close calls with predators, and of the strange new creatures they had seen in the forest. The forest, it seemed, was alive, always shifting, always changing. Some said it was the forest itself that was growing, that the trees were expanding, reaching farther into the savanna, pushing the boundaries of their world. It was a troubling thought, for as the trees grew, so did the dangers. The shadows grew deeper, the predators bolder, and the rival tribes more aggressive. But tonight, they had survived. Tomorrow, they would hunt again, gather more food, and keep watch over their families. The rain began to subside, and the storm's fury turned into a steady rhythmic patter. The forest was alive with the sound of the wind and the murmur of the animals that had weathered the storm. As the tribe settled down to rest, the hunter who had led the charge during the battle stood apart, staring into the flickering flames. His mind was heavy with the knowledge that the forest, the very world around them, was shifting. The trees grew taller, more oppressive. The land was becoming more dangerous, and their survival was growing ever more uncertain. But he knew one thing for certain: they would fight, they would survive, and they would do so together. The hunter reached for his spear, his fingers brushing the stone tip. It was worn-chipped from years of use, but it was still strong. He knew it would be enough. As long as they stayed together, as long as they kept their wits sharp, they would endure. The storm outside may have passed, but the storm within the forest was far from over. As he returned to the fire, the tribe settled in their faces, weary but resolute. The night would pass, the dawn would come, and with it another day of survival in this ever-changing, never-ending wilderness. The fire flickered once more, casting its light on their faces, and for a brief moment they were united, not just by the battle they had survived, but by the shared understanding that this world, this giant forest, would always demand more from them. But for now, they were alive, and that was enough. As the first light of dawn filtered through the dense canopy, the tribe stirred from their rest, each member silently preparing for the challenges ahead. The air was thick with the earthy scent of wet leaves and the hum of the forest, now calm after the storm. The shadows of the trees stretched long, their branches swaying gently in the morning breeze, as if the forest itself was awakening, ready for another day of growth and danger. The hunter who had led the charge the previous day stood at the edge of the camp, his eyes scanning the horizon. The forest, ever expanding, was an unpredictable force. Its towering trees were no longer just a source of shelter. They had become an ever-present threat. The land they once roamed freely was shrinking, swallowed by the relentless march of nature. What had once been savanna was now a dense wilderness teeming with creatures both familiar and new. Today, the tribe would need to move deeper into the forest. There was no other choice. The food supply was dwindling, and the risk of encountering rival tribes was growing with each passing day. They had to push forward their survival, depending on their ability to adapt to the ever-changing world around them. As they gathered their belongings, readying themselves for the journey ahead, the hunter's mind remained focused on the path forward. The battle was not over. It never would be. But as long as they stood together, they would survive one day at a time.